Theatrhythm Final Bar Line is fantastic. When this game was announced back in the September 2022 Nintendo Direct, it was honestly the game of the Direct for me. Like, I was so excited to see this game finally come back. If you don't know, Theatrhythm is a sub-series for Square Enix of rhythm games. They've done Theatrhythm Final Fantasy, as well as the sequel to that, Curtain Call, and a Japan-only exclusive Dragon Quest Theatrhythm game. And now we finally got one on the Nintendo Switch. There's also an arcade cabinet. Theatrhythm Final Fantasy is one of my favorite 3DS games. I never got around to playing Curtain Call, which is just a sequel with more songs, but it was seriously one of my favorite games as a kid. It's a fantastic rhythm game, and if you don't like Final Fantasy music, then granted, it's not going to be for you. But I love Final Fantasy music. Even though I might not have the rich history with Final Fantasy that a lot of people do, you know, I've only played 7 Remake, a little bit of 10, 13 and 13 too, and 15, and now a new one which we'll get into. So I don't have that rich history with like the older games, or really 1 through 9 at all. But the music still slaps, so I was very excited to see this game get announced, and now here it is. Finally played it, just beat it. So let's talk about it. Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are reviewing Theatrhythm Final Bar Line. First thing I will say, weird name. Weird to not put Final Fantasy in the name of your rhythm Final Fantasy game, but you do you, Square Enix. I respect it. So if you don't know, Theatrhythm Final Bar Line is the, I guess, 3rd entry or 4th entry if you count the arcade cabinet unit in Japan. It's the 4th game in the Theatrhythm franchise, or the Theatrhythm Final Fantasy line, I should say, at least, because like I said, there is that Dragon Quest game, and it is just a fantastic rhythm game. So what I was worried about most going into this Switch version, and I guess the answers were already there with the arcade cabinet, but that's in Japan, so I wasn't aware, is on the 3DS you use the touchscreen, and the game was very much designed around flicking your stylus up or down based on what note appears on screen. So I was wondering how that was going to translate to the Switch using a controller, because there actually isn't any touchscreen options at all. At least not that I saw. Maybe it's buried in the settings somewhere, but I did not see that. So I was really worried, is it going to feel as good as it did on 3DS? Well, I'm happy to say it feels great. I want to go back and play some of the 3DS game because I don't know if it feels better. There are definitely times where, so now instead of flicking up with a stylus, you flick up with one of the 2 control sticks. There are times where that doesn't feel, I feel like, as good as it should, but maybe I'm misremembering how good it felt on 3DS. Either way, I mean, it still feels great, but that one action sometimes is a little off. Another aspect of the notes hitting that you would do is there'd be lines that would come up and you would have to drag your stylus up or down, like kind of follow the wavelength of it. In this game, you hold the control stick up or down based on which way the wave is going. That works fine for me. So I don't know if my timing's just off with the rhythm of flicking the control stick up or down for those notes. But yeah, that overall, the game controls fantastic. That was my biggest fear going into this. And at that point, if you can get used to the controls and if you like the actual rhythm aspect of it, you're going to like this game because it is Final Fantasy music. If you like Final Fantasy music, there is literally no reason not to buy this game. This game is basically perfect in every way. The only gripe might be controls, and if you can get, you know, if you enjoy the controls, this is a fantastic game. Like, it is honestly one of the best rhythm games I have ever played, and a year that already has a fantastic rhythm game, kind of, in the form of Hi-Fi Rush. Theatrhythm Final Bar Line is genuinely already another little runner-up GOTY contender for me. Between this and Hi-Fi Rush, those are my 2 favorite games this year so far. This game, like I said, as someone who does not have that rich history with Final Fantasy music, really, even, like I said, someone who doesn't have that history, it still made me feel nostalgic. It still gets me moving when I'm hearing these songs. And while I may not know the exact context of, like, oh, Final Fantasy IX ending theme, I might not have the weight behind that as someone who's played the game would. It still hits. It honestly still does. So if you're already a hardcore Final Fantasy fan, this game is absolutely 100% a must-buy if you like Final Fantasy music and rhythm games. If you're someone like me, who is a bit more of a casual Final Fantasy fan, if you played 1 or 2 games, I still think it's worth it. Especially with the DLC, because they're doing, well, I think rumored is Octopath, but they're doing Xenogears. There's a lot of Romancing Saga songs in the DLC, which is all great. You know, and the amount of content, as I'm talking about DLC, I just want to say, I don't know how much was in the 3DS games. It's staggering, man. Beating the game, the story mode. So the way the game is structured is they just put you on a title screen and they have every game in the series basically. And you can select that. You unlock keys as you play through to unlock the other games, and you can kind of just choose your own path, choose your own adventure. There's no real story here, other than just playing the music. There are almost 400 songs in this game included. It took me, I want to say, like 20 hours just to beat the game, just to do the bare minimum and roll credits. I cleared every title. However, every song has a quest, a side quest for you to do, like defeat a certain amount of enemies, which we'll get to, or unlock chests, or clear with a perfect chain, which means, you know, not missing any notes. The amount of replay value here is something that genuinely scares me. As someone who typically beats a game and moves on to the next thing, the amount of desire I have to stick with this game for 100 more hours is insane. Like I said, beating this main story took me like 20 hours. But each game, the way it's structured, once again, you don't have to play every song from each game. Sometimes it'll divert in paths. So Final Fantasy III, it'll get to the point where you can play 2 different songs. I would just play one song and then move on because I was trying to clear each title first, and then I'm going to go back and do all the quests and stuff. So, bare minimum, you're looking at like 20 hours. That is, in of itself, I feel like really crazy for a rhythm game like this, and it just goes to show how much music they shoved into this game. And one thing I really appreciate as someone who, once again, not a huge, you know, hardcore Final Fantasy fan, is their attention to the spin-offs. So like I said, I've played 13 and 13 too, so naturally the music in those games I'm going to feel a little bit more towards. But even something like Dissidia has, I think, over 20 songs in this game. The entire Dissidia franchise gets like 20 songs. Or even, you know, like the weird freaking Final Fantasy Mobius, I think is the name of the mobile game. Type 0 has its own playlist. Like, there is a lot of content in here, and they don't neglect really anything. I'm sure someone will know, like, oh, they neglected whatever, Final Fantasy Legend, or, you know, something weirder like that, although I guess they probably did actually neglect that because it's technically Saga, right? Or not Saga, Mana. But the breadth of variety here is what I'm trying to say, is absolutely staggering. You know, I did see some of my boy Somber on Twitter was saying that apparently for Final Fantasy III, they mix in versions of songs from the original version on NES or Famicom, and then they mix in songs from the 3D remake on DS. That's a no-no. I don't know why they did that. They could have done that and just had it like as an extra song in the stage selection. So I don't know why they did that, taking his word at face value. So that's kind of weird, but as someone who's not that hardcore, I'm not going to notice, right? But even, you know, 10-2 has its own playlist. 13-2 and Lightning Returns don't have their own playlist in the main titles, you know, section of the main quest story thing. But you have Final Fantasy 13, and then you have the Final Fantasy 13 series. You have 7 remake, and the 7 series where you get, you know, some Crisis Core music, some Dirge of Cerberus music. The amount of content is insane. It is honestly, quite frankly, insane. So if you are looking to buy one game this year, and you like rhythm games and you like Final Fantasy, oh my goodness, this is something that, you know, I'm someone who likes to move on from game to game, do reviews, that kind of thing. I'm struggling to stop myself from playing it. You know, I want to keep playing more. I'm doing like a song or two a day at this point. And it's kind of nice just getting that rhythm every day. You know, literally, and just kind of have that to wake myself up in the morning. But there's also something else I was not expecting in this game, and that is an online multiplayer mode. So I knew they revealed it in the September Direct, and I watched that trailer that one time, but for me, just knowing it existed was enough. I didn't watch any more trailers or even rewatch that trailer. I just was like, okay, it's coming out in February. I'm going to wait until then and just play it. Then I played the demo, and I saw something, but you couldn't access it in the demo. There is a full multiplayer mode. And in this mode, it could be even more time spent in the game. Another complete time sink, and it's just playing music with friends or randos, and that's fantastic. So it kind of works like a party game where, and the controls are fully customizable if you want to have these on or off, but you can have effects. Almost like sending Tetris blocks to another player, or like Puyo blocks to another player in like a puzzle game, like a multiplayer puzzle game. And this, you'll be sending other effects to their screen, so maybe they won't be getting feedback from when they hit a trigger or a note, or maybe chocobos or moogles will be covering the screen, so it's harder for them to see what's coming ahead. Stuff like that makes it a really fun party mode. Or if you just want to have a more fair competition, just direct, like, okay, this is score based, whoever hits the most notes gets the most critical hits on the notes, you know, you can just do that too. The options there are very fun. That you can play 4-player, so it's not just 1v1 either. And you can keep lobbies going, have like a little win streak going. It's really cool. You have a separate online rating system. If you aren't into rating systems, you can turn it off. The amount of options is fantastic for this game in general. Not even just the online mode. In just any mode, you can completely change the way the game looks. So typically on screen, you'll see your party of 4, which we'll get to. I haven't even talked about those yet. Oh my goodness. You'll have your party of 4 on screen. But if you want to just turn that off, if you find it distracting, you can make the screen completely black. Also, what I did eventually, like halfway through my playthrough is, and I'm sure I'll have some footage of it up on the screen at some point in this video, is you can kind of have like this weird streamer mode kind of thing going, where it shows you the difficulty you're playing on, as well as your party, your moves, and it's just a really cool like overlay. I liked it because the way my desk is set up, it kind of cuts off part of the screen, and it kind of just made the main screen smaller. It's hard to explain, so that worked out for me. I'm not sure why most regular people would want to do that. It also shows your controls, so you can see what you're doing on the controller. So once again, kind of like a streamer mode, but really cool. I really appreciate that. Just those options, like I said, are really, really appreciated. And then, yeah, if you are new to Theatrhythm, you do have a huge cast of characters across the Final Fantasy series in this new cute little kind of chibi art style, and you level them up like a JRPG. You have moves. I'll be honest, this isn't something I've done too much like actually building with throughout my entire game. If I had a character hit level 99, I just immediately switch to another character because I wanted to level up as many as possible throughout my playthrough. I imagine if you're doing quests or trying to go for high scores, it will matter more. But you have your characters. They will have moves that they would have had in the game. You know, Yuna is a summoner, that kind of thing, right? And then they'll unlock those moves, and it kind of your little boys will be fighting during the rhythm song based on how well you perform in the song. So going back to what I was saying with the quests, each song in the main story has a quest. If your quest or your objective is to defeat the boss, you know, if you don't defeat the boss, that's fine. The main goal is to complete the song. But if you do really good on the song and you have really good characters with really good moves, and you know, if you're fighting like an ice boss and you have a magic user that has a fire attack, you're gonna do more damage. You can beat the boss. You can get more XP. You can do the challenge. It's just this really satisfying gameplay loop. I haven't gone back to do too many challenges other than what I did just naturally through playing. And they even have stuff like, oh, you're playing Final Fantasy 3. Use this character from Final Fantasy 3. So that stuff is fantastic. Even though it's not something I really delve too deep into, it's also just nice seeing the amount of characters, like I said. You know, once again, not huge into Final Fantasy, not a hardcore fan, though I think I'm going to be very shortly, and I do want to talk about that. You know, just seeing so many characters, and for me, one of my favorite things I do in video games is just grinds. Just seeing characters go from level 1 to 99 just over and over again, very satisfying. I believe you can also go beyond level 99, but it takes an astronomical amount of experience. So this game is designed, if you want to get in and get out like I did, and I'll probably be playing some more for sure, but not as much as I was, of course. If you want to get in and get out, just play each song once, kind of. You can do that. It'll take you like 20 or 25 hours, or they've designed it so that if you want to put 1,000 hours into this game, you can absolutely do that, and I don't think you'll get burnt out any more than you would get burnt out to listening to the Final Fantasy music playlist on Spotify. That's another thing. Not really my kind of style, but you can make playlists in this game, like Smash Bros. Ultimate. I've never really been one to do that. I don't really listen to video game music too much outside of a context of playing a video game, which is why I love rhythm games like this every once in a while, too. So that, once again, just going back, options. So many options in this damn game. It's so freaking well done. So yeah, Theatrhythm Final Bar Line, if I have not sold it to you at this point, I don't think anybody's going to. This game is freaking phenomenal. If you like Final Fantasy music, and even if you aren't a huge Final Fantasy fan, you will get at least some form of enjoyment around this game. There is a free demo. The demo carries your progress to the main game. Try the demo. I fully recommend this game. I really want to see it succeed so we get more of this stuff from Indie Zero. I know one of the developers said they would love to work with Nintendo on a rhythm game. Oh my god. Please. Give me like a Zelda one or a Xenoblade or Fire Emblem, anything from this Theatrhythm kind of style or series of gameplay into a Nintendo game. I would lose my mind for that. And one last thing before I close off here. This is an aside from Theatrhythm, though it was related. I was playing through the Final Fantasy XIV music in this game. That was a mistake. The music was really good, and I was like, damn, I kind of want to play Final Fantasy XIV. I now have 40 hours in Final Fantasy XIV. I'm almost at the end of A Realm Reborn, I think. And yeah, so this is also a great gateway to just hear some music from a game and then maybe feel like, oh, I want to go check that out, and then you get into it. That's what this game did for me. It got me into my first MMO. So thanks, Theatrhythm Final Bar Line. You've ruined my life. I am now playing a damn MMO. Me, the person who beats a game and moves on. This is perfect. I feel trapped now. Only half joking. So yeah, maybe expect a video on 14 once I finish A Realm Reborn and all the patch quests. We'll see what happens there. I don't know if it really fits this channel, but I'm really enjoying my time with that game, and I really enjoyed my time with Theatrhythm Final Bar Line. So once again, last thing, if you have not played it, play the demo. I highly recommend it. If you enjoy this review, please consider subscribing here for more reviews like this one pretty frequently, as well as other Nintendo topics pretty much each and every day. Follow me on Twitter @BotoxGames, and until next time, folks, peace.